Rain hammered against the tinted windows of the black Mercedes as Marcus Whitmore loosened his tie and rubbed his temples. Another exhausting 12-hour day. Another $1 million deal closed. Another evening driving through streets he barely noticed anymore. Then his driver suddenly slammed the brakes. Marcus looked up sharply. "What now?" "There's someone in the road, sir." The headlights cut through the storm. A homeless woman knelt beside a trembling little boy near the flooded curb, holding her threadbare coat over his head while rain soaked every inch of her own body. Cars swerved past them, splashing dirty water everywhere. And then Marcus saw something unbelievable. The woman handed the child a thick envelope stuffed with cash. A homeless woman, giving money away. What happened next would change both of their lives forever. The little boy's mother came running from a nearby pharmacy, crying tears of relief as the homeless woman pressed the envelope into her hands. "Please," the woman whispered. "Get him the medicine tonight. But this is too much. No child should suffer because of money." Marcus frowned. None of it made sense. The woman's shoes were falling apart. Her gray sweater was ripped at the sleeves. She slept beside the old subway entrance downtown almost every night. Marcus had seen her before during his morning commute, sitting quietly with a cardboard sign that simply read, "Anything helps. God bless you." And yet she was giving away hundreds of dollars like it meant nothing. The boy's mother hugged the homeless woman tightly before rushing away through the storm. The woman stayed kneeling alone in the rain. Marcus couldn't stop staring. "Drive," he muttered. But even as the car pulled away, something about her haunted him. Because while Marcus owned luxury penthouses, private investments, and more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, he couldn't remember the last time he sacrificed anything for another human being. Meanwhile, a homeless woman with nothing had just given away everything she had. The next morning, Evelyn Carter woke before sunrise beneath the overhang of an abandoned bookstore. The city was still quiet. She carefully folded her blanket, brushed dirt from her skirt, and tucked a tiny silver key deeper into her pocket before standing. Every movement carried dignity. Not bitterness. Not self-pity. Dignity. She walked 3 blocks to a public restroom and washed her face with cold water. Then she fixed her silver-streaked hair into a neat bun using a cracked compact mirror. Most people ignored her. Some looked at her with disgust. Others crossed the street entirely. But Evelyn still greeted everyone with kindness. "Good morning," she told a tired bus driver. "God bless you," she said to a waitress opening a cafe. By noon, she'd collected only $11.20. Yet when another homeless veteran nearby began coughing violently, Evelyn quietly bought him soup with nearly half the money she had earned. "Miss Evelyn," the veteran protested weakly, "you need this more than I do." She smiled softly. "No, Harold. I just need enough." That afternoon, Marcus arrived at Whitmore Financial Tower for an important investor meeting. The lobby buzzed with executives, assistants, and wealthy clients. Everything in his world was polished. Controlled. Predictable. Until the shouting started. Marcus turned toward the entrance. Security guards were surrounding someone. Evelyn. Wet from the rain again. Holding a worn leather folder tightly against her chest. "You can't be in here," one guard snapped. "I'm only asking to speak with Mr. Whitmore." "You people always have a story." Marcus felt irritation rise instantly. "Not today." He strode across the marble floor. "What's going on here?" The guard straightened. "Sir, this woman refuses to leave." Evelyn looked directly at Marcus. Not intimidated. Not desperate. Just calm. "I apologize for the disturbance," she said quietly. "But I believe your company made a terrible mistake many years ago." Marcus sighed impatiently. "Ma'am, if this is about money." "It isn't." She slowly opened the leather folder. Inside were faded documents, old bank records, and a photograph. Marcus froze. The photo showed his late father standing beside a much younger Evelyn. Smiling. "What is this?" Marcus whispered. Evelyn's eyes filled with emotion. "Your father trusted me with something before he died," she said. "And after 20 years. I think it's finally time you learned the truth." The entire lobby fell silent. Marcus stared at the homeless woman standing before him. Suddenly, she wasn't invisible anymore. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt something unfamiliar creeping into his carefully controlled life. Curiosity. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. Marcus stood frozen in the center of the marble lobby while employees whispered around him. The homeless woman carefully slid the photograph across the security desk. Marcus picked it up slowly. His father looked younger in the picture. Happier somehow. Beside him stood Evelyn, dressed elegantly in a navy business suit, her smile confident and warm. This wasn't some random scam. "What is this?" Marcus asked again, quieter this time. Evelyn tightened her grip on the leather folder. "Your father and I worked together many years ago." Marcus frowned. "That's impossible. My father never mentioned you." A flicker of pain crossed her face. "I imagine there are many things he never mentioned." The security guards exchanged uncomfortable glances. Marcus looked around the lobby. Every employee in the building was pretending not to stare. "Come with me," he said finally. Minutes later, Evelyn sat stiffly inside Marcus's private office on the 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. She looked completely out of place there. And yet somehow, she carried herself with more grace than most of the executives Marcus worked with. Marcus loosened his cuffs. "Start talking." Evelyn gently opened the folder. Inside were old account statements, legal papers, handwritten letters, and one sealed envelope with Marcus's name written across the front in his father's handwriting. Marcus's heartbeat slowed. "That can't be real." "It is." He picked up the envelope carefully, almost afraid to touch it. "My father died 20 years ago." "Yes," Evelyn whispered. "And before he passed away, he asked me to protect something for him until the time was right." Marcus looked at her sharply. "Protect what exactly?" Instead of answering, Evelyn asked softly, "Did your father ever teach you how to trust people?" Marcus leaned back coldly. "Trust gets people exploited." A sad smile appeared on her face. "You sound exactly like the board members who destroyed him." Marcus blinked. "Destroyed him? My father built this company." "Yes," Evelyn replied calmly. "And they pushed him out before his death." The room suddenly felt smaller. Marcus had spent his entire life believing his father died from illness shortly after retiring voluntarily. That was the official story. The only story. "You're lying." Evelyn didn't react angrily. Instead, she slid another document toward him. Marcus stared at it. A bank statement. An account balance filled with numbers so large his breath caught. Over $12 million. The account holder's name. Evelyn Carter. Marcus looked up slowly. "You have $12 million. Closer to 14 now." Silence swallowed the office. Marcus stared at the woman whose coat smelled faintly of rain and whose shoes were nearly worn through. "You're homeless." "Yes." "And you have millions in the bank?" "Yes." His voice hardened instantly. "Then this is some kind of game." Evelyn looked genuinely hurt. No. It's a promise. Marcus stood and paced toward the windows. Nothing made sense anymore. Why would someone with millions live on the street? Why beg for change? Why give money away? And why had his father trusted her with anything? You expect me to believe you chose homelessness? Evelyn looked down at her weathered hands. After your father died, people started looking for that account. Marcus turned sharply. What people? The same people who betrayed him. A chill crawled up Marcus's spine. Evelyn continued carefully. Your father discovered several executives were stealing from employee retirement funds. He planned to expose everything. Marcus's jaw tightened. No. He moved the evidence and the money into an account only I could access temporarily. He thought it would protect both you and your mother. Marcus felt dizzy. My mother knew nothing about this. She wasn't supposed to. Marcus ran a hand through his hair aggressively. This is insane. I know. Why disappear? Because 2 weeks after your father died, someone broke into my apartment looking for these documents. Marcus stopped pacing. Evelyn's voice trembled for the first time. They threatened my daughter. Marcus softened slightly. You had a daughter? A quiet silence lingered. Emily, Evelyn whispered. She died 3 years later from leukemia. Marcus's anger faded instantly. I'm sorry. She was 8. The room became painfully quiet. For the first time, Marcus really looked at her. Not as a homeless woman. Not as a burden. But as someone who had survived unimaginable loss. Evelyn carefully wiped her eyes before continuing. After Emily passed, I stopped caring about appearances. I stayed hidden. I protected the account. I waited. Marcus sat down slowly. Waited for what? For you to become the kind of man your father hoped you'd become. Marcus almost laughed bitterly. You picked the wrong man. But Evelyn shook her head gently. No. I saw you stop your car yesterday. Marcus froze. You recognized me. I recognized your father in your eyes. Marcus looked away immediately. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. Not employees. Not investors. Not even his ex-wife. Evelyn slowly stood. I didn't come here for the money. Then why now? Because people have started searching again. Marcus looked up sharply. What do you mean? Before Evelyn could answer, Marcus's office door burst open. His senior partner, Daniel Reeves, stepped inside. And the moment Daniel saw Evelyn, his face turned completely white. Evelyn's expression darkened instantly. That's him, she whispered. Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Evelyn stared directly at Daniel. He's one of the men your father tried to expose. Daniel recovered quickly. Too quickly. This woman is mentally unstable, he snapped. Security should remove her immediately. But Marcus noticed something terrifying. Daniel was sweating. And suddenly, for the first time in years, Marcus realized he had no idea who he could trust. Daniel Reeves forced a laugh, but it sounded strained. Marcus, this woman is obviously manipulating you. Evelyn stepped backward slowly, clutching the leather folder tightly against her chest. Marcus looked between them. One was his trusted business partner of 15 years. The other was a homeless woman with secrets buried deeper than he could understand. But only one of them looked afraid. And it wasn't Evelyn. Daniel straightened his expensive tie. You have investors waiting downstairs. We can deal with this later. No, Marcus said firmly. The word surprised even him. Daniel's jaw tightened. Excuse me. You heard me. For a moment, silence filled the office like thick smoke. Then Daniel's polished smile returned. Marcus, you're emotional right now. This woman shows up with fake documents and suddenly your father's entire legacy changes. Evelyn quietly opened the folder again and removed another paper. This is the original audit report your father prepared before his death. Marcus took it carefully. His eyes scanned the page. Unauthorized transfers. Hidden offshore accounts. Executive signatures. One name appeared repeatedly. Daniel Reeves. Marcus looked up slowly. Daniel's face hardened instantly. That document was fabricated. Evelyn's voice remained calm. Your father said you would deny everything. Marcus's chest tightened. He remembered being 12 years old, overhearing his parents arguing late at night. His father shouting about betrayal. His mother crying. At the time, Marcus thought it was stress from illness. Now he wasn't so sure. Daniel stepped closer. Marcus, think carefully before you destroy this company over the claims of a homeless stranger. That word hit harder than Marcus expected. Homeless stranger. Just yesterday, Marcus probably would have used those same words himself. But now? Now he remembered seeing Evelyn kneeling in freezing rain to help a sick child. He remembered the dignity in her voice. The quiet kindness in her eyes. And suddenly Daniel's polished appearance felt far uglier than Evelyn's worn clothes ever could. Marcus looked directly at his partner. Leave. Daniel blinked. What? I said leave my office. The tension snapped tight between them. You're making a mistake, Daniel warned quietly. Maybe, Marcus replied. But it's my mistake to make. Daniel glared at Evelyn one last time before storming out. The second the door closed, Evelyn exhaled shakily. He knows I still have the records now. Marcus walked toward her slowly. How long have you been running? 20 years. You could have used the money. Yes. You could have lived comfortably. Yes. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Why sacrifice your entire life for this? Evelyn's eyes filled with emotion. Because your father saved mine first. Marcus frowned slightly. Evelyn sat back down carefully, her hands trembling. When my husband abandoned us, I had nothing. No family. No support. Your father hired me when nobody else would. Her voice softened with memory. He used to say, a person's worst chapter shouldn't define their whole story. Marcus swallowed hard. That sounded exactly like his father. He paid for Emily's treatments when I couldn't afford them, Evelyn continued. He kept food in our apartment. He gave us dignity. Marcus looked down silently. My father never told me any of this. He didn't do kind things for recognition. The words hit Marcus harder than she realized. Because Marcus had spent years chasing recognition. Awards. Magazine covers. Luxury. Status. Meanwhile, his father's greatest legacy had been hidden inside acts of quiet compassion nobody ever saw. A knock interrupted the silence. Marcus's assistant stepped inside nervously. Sir, reporters are downstairs. Marcus frowned. Reporters? She hesitated. Someone leaked that a homeless woman caused a disturbance in your office. Marcus immediately understood. Daniel. Within an hour, social media exploded with headlines. Homeless woman scams financial CEO. Mentally ill woman claims dead billionaire's secret. Photos of Evelyn standing outside the building spread everywhere. Cruel comments flooded online. She's obviously lying. Another gold digger. Throw her out. Marcus watched Evelyn quietly reading the headlines from his office tablet. She didn't cry. Didn't complain. But her hands shook slightly. I should go, she whispered. Marcus looked up sharply. No. I've brought enough trouble to your life already. You brought the truth. That truth may destroy your company. Marcus stared out the windows again. For years, he believed success meant protecting the company at all costs. Now he wasn't sure anymore. Because if the company had been built on betrayal, was it worth protecting? That evening, Marcus insisted on driving Evelyn himself. When they reached the old subway entrance where she slept, Marcus finally saw it properly for the first time. The thin blanket. The leaking overhang. The freezing concrete floor. And beside her belongings sat 3 small paper bags filled with sandwiches. Marcus frowned. What's this? Evelyn smiled faintly. Dinner for the others nearby. You feed other homeless people. Most nights. With your own money. She looked genuinely confused by the question. What good is having more than enough if others suffer? Marcus had no answer. A young teenage boy suddenly approached nervously. Miss Evelyn. She smiled warmly. Hello, Jamal. I got the job, he said excitedly. The mechanic shop hired me. Evelyn clapped her hands together proudly. I knew they would. The boy noticed Marcus standing nearby awkwardly. She helped me study for my GED, he explained. Every night. Marcus stared at Evelyn. You tutor people too? She shrugged softly. Everyone needs someone who believes in them. Another elderly woman nearby waved at Evelyn. Then another man thanked her for buying his medication last week. One by one, people emerged from the shadows. Not to ask Evelyn for help, but to thank her. Marcus felt something crack open inside him. This woman everyone ignored. This woman he almost dismissed. Had quietly become the heart of an entire forgotten community. Then his phone rang. It was Daniel. Marcus answered cautiously. Daniel's voice came cold and sharp. If you continue digging into your father's records, the board will remove you by morning. Marcus looked at Evelyn standing under the flickering subway light. For the first time in years, he felt absolutely certain about something. Then let them try. He hung up. But as Marcus slipped his phone back into his pocket, he noticed 2 men watching them from across the street. Watching Evelyn. Watching the folder. And suddenly Marcus realized the danger surrounding her was far from over. Rain poured across the city again that night. Marcus couldn't sleep. From his penthouse window, he watched lightning flash over skyscrapers while Evelyn's words replayed endlessly in his mind. A person's worst chapter shouldn't define their whole story. His father used to say that. Not the version of his father printed in business magazines. Not the cold corporate legend investors admired. The real man. The compassionate man. And somehow, a homeless woman had preserved that part of him better than Marcus ever had. At 2 a.m., Marcus made a decision. By sunrise, he was standing outside the subway entrance carrying 2 cups of hot coffee and a thick wool coat. Evelyn looked genuinely surprised. You came back. Marcus handed her the coffee awkwardly. You shouldn't be sleeping out here. She smiled faintly. Most people don't come back after seeing this place. Marcus looked around carefully. Several homeless people still slept beneath blankets nearby. One elderly man coughed violently in his sleep. A young mother curled protectively around her daughter. Human beings. Invisible to the world. Marcus slowly sat beside Evelyn on the cold concrete. I spent my entire life trying not to become weak, he admitted quietly. Evelyn wrapped both hands around the warm coffee cup. And what does weakness look like to you? Needing people. She nodded thoughtfully. Then you've been lonely for a very long time. The words landed like a punch to the chest. Because they were true. Marcus had employees. Clients. Associates. But not real connection. Not real purpose. Not since his father died. Suddenly headlights swept across the street. A black SUV slowed near the subway entrance. Evelyn's face immediately drained of color. That's them. Marcus stood instantly. Two men stepped out of the vehicle wearing dark coats. One pointed directly toward Evelyn. Get in the car, the man demanded. Marcus stepped between them. Who are you? Move. Marcus rarely experienced fear. But something in the man's voice carried real danger. Evelyn clutched the leather folder tightly. They want the account information, she whispered. The second man moved forward aggressively. Without thinking, Marcus shoved him back. Touch her again and I'll call the police. The men exchanged glances. Then the first one smirked coldly. You really don't know what your father was involved in, do you? Before Marcus could respond, the SUV sped away into the rain. But the threat lingered in the air long after they disappeared. That morning, Marcus did something nobody expected. He called an emergency board meeting. Executives filled the conference room, whispering nervously as Marcus entered beside Evelyn. Gasps spread instantly. Daniel Reeves stood abruptly. You cannot bring her in here. Marcus ignored him. Instead, he connected his laptop to the projector screen. Financial records appeared. Offshore transfers. Hidden accounts. Employee pension theft. Years of corruption. The room exploded into chaos. This is impossible. These records are sealed. Where did you get this? Marcus looked directly at Daniel. My father tried to stop this company from stealing from its own employees. Daniel slammed his fist against the table. You're destroying everything your father built. Marcus's voice rose for the first time in years. No. You destroyed it. Silence crashed over the room. Marcus turned toward the board members slowly. Effective immediately, I'm authorizing a full criminal investigation into every executive involved. Daniel stared at him in disbelief. You'll lose investors. Then we lose investors. You'll bankrupt this company. Marcus glanced at Evelyn. Then back at the room. Maybe it's time this company remembered what integrity costs. Hours later, federal investigators entered Whitmore Financial Tower. Executives were escorted out publicly. News helicopters circled overhead. Employees gathered outside watching history unfold in real time. And for the first time in decades, the truth finally surfaced. But the biggest surprise came 3 days later. Marcus stood beside Evelyn inside a quiet downtown bank branch. A manager carefully reviewed the account documents before looking up nervously. Mrs. Carter, the account balance is currently $14,382,000. Marcus still struggled hearing those numbers connected to her name. The manager continued softly, would you like to transfer the funds? Evelyn looked out the window thoughtfully. Then she smiled. Yes. Marcus nodded slowly. You've earned peace. But Evelyn shook her head gently. No. I've earned purpose. 3 months later, the old abandoned community center downtown reopened under a new name. The Evelyn Carter Foundation. Marcus stood near the entrance watching workers unload books, food supplies, computers, and medical equipment. Children laughed inside freshly painted classrooms. Families lined up for free healthcare screenings. Job training programs filled every room. And above the entrance hung a simple sign. No one is invisible here. Marcus turned as Evelyn approached wearing a clean blue coat and holding a set of building keys. Not homeless anymore. Not hidden anymore. Thriving. But still unmistakably herself. You built all this, Marcus said quietly. Evelyn smiled. We built it. Marcus shook his head. I spent years making money. You spent years changing lives. And now you can do both. A teenage voice suddenly shouted across the room. "Miss Evelyn." Jamal ran toward them holding paperwork excitedly. "I got accepted into college." Evelyn threw her arms around him proudly while Marcus laughed. Nearby, Harold the veteran sat reading to children in the library corner. The young mother from the subway now worked at the foundation's reception desk. One act of kindness had become hundreds. Maybe thousands. The ripple effect kept growing. Later that evening, Marcus walked outside and stopped suddenly. Across the street stood a shivering homeless man holding a cardboard sign. Months ago, Marcus probably would have walked past without noticing. Now he crossed the street immediately. "You eaten today?" Marcus asked gently. The man looked shocked. Marcus smiled softly and handed him a warm meal card from the foundation. For the first time in his life, Marcus finally understood something his father knew all along. Success meant nothing if nobody else rose with you. Evelyn watched from the foundation doorway, smiling quietly. The roles had changed completely. Once, she had been the invisible person everyone ignored. Now she was the reason countless people had hope again. And Marcus? He had discovered that the richest thing a person could ever possess wasn't money. It was compassion. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment in the comments. 1 year later, the city barely recognized the corner where Evelyn Carter once slept. The cracked subway entrance was gone. In its place stood a bright mural painted by local children. Across the wall, bold golden letters stretched toward the sky. Kindness changes everything. Every morning, people filled the Emily Carter Foundation before the doors even opened. Single mothers attended career workshops upstairs. Veterans received counseling and housing support downstairs. Teenagers studied for scholarships in the Learning Center. Nobody was turned away hungry. Nobody was treated like they were invisible. And at the center of it all was Evelyn. Not hidden. Not forgotten. Respected. Loved. Marcus arrived early one morning carrying 2 coffees, smiling as he walked through the front doors. The receptionist grinned. "You're late." Evelyn already started breakfast service. Marcus laughed softly. "She's impossible to beat." He found Evelyn in the kitchen wearing an apron, helping serve pancakes to children before school. The kids crowded around her constantly. "Miss Evelyn, look at my drawing." "Miss Evelyn, I got an A on my math test." "Miss Evelyn, can you read with us later?" And somehow, despite everything she had endured, she gave every single child her full attention. Marcus leaned against the doorway quietly watching. A year ago, he measured success by profit margins and investment portfolios. Now, his proudest achievement was seeing hope return to people's eyes. Evelyn noticed him and smiled warmly. "You're staring again." Marcus handed her the coffee. "I'm still trying to figure out how someone survives everything you survived and still stays kind." Evelyn looked around the crowded room. "At some point, pain gives you 2 choices," she said softly. "You either become the wound, or you become the medicine." Marcus never forgot that sentence. Meanwhile, Whitmore Financial had changed completely. After the investigation exposed decades of corruption, many believed the company would collapse. Instead, something unexpected happened. Employees stayed. Clients returned. Investors slowly rebuilt trust. Why? Because for the first time, the company operated with honesty. Marcus created scholarship programs funded directly from executive bonuses. Employee retirement funds were fully restored. And every quarter, a percentage of company profits now supported shelters, education programs, and medical outreach through the foundation. The business world called Marcus reckless. But privately, hundreds of employees called him something else. A leader. One afternoon, Marcus visited his father's grave for the first time in nearly 5 years. Evelyn stood quietly beside him holding fresh flowers. "I spent so many years angry at him," Marcus admitted. "Why?" "Because after he died, everything became cold. Distant." He swallowed hard. "I thought he abandoned me." Evelyn gently placed the flowers down. "Your father loved you more than his own life." Marcus looked down silently. "He believed kindness was the only thing people truly leave behind," Evelyn continued. "Not money. Not buildings. Not titles." A breeze moved softly through the cemetery trees. For the first time since childhood, Marcus felt peace standing there. Not because he had answers to everything, but because he finally understood the kind of man his father tried to be. And the kind of man Marcus wanted to become. Months later, the foundation hosted its annual community celebration. Hundreds gathered in the courtyard under warm string lights. Children laughed while music played softly. Families shared meals together. Formerly homeless residents now worked as mentors helping others rebuild their lives. Jamal, now thriving in college, stepped onto the small stage holding a microphone. "I wouldn't be here without Miss Evelyn," he said emotionally. "She taught me that your circumstances don't decide your future." The crowd erupted into applause. Evelyn covered her mouth, overwhelmed with emotion. Then Jamal smiled toward Marcus. "And Mr. Whitmore taught me that powerful people can choose compassion over comfort." Marcus looked away awkwardly as the audience applauded louder. He still wasn't used to being admired for kindness instead of wealth. Later that evening, a nervous young woman approached Evelyn near the food tables. "I just wanted to thank you," she whispered. Evelyn smiled gently. "For what?" The woman wiped tears from her eyes. 2 years ago, you gave me $20 outside a pharmacy when my son was sick." Marcus froze nearby. It was the same woman from the rainy night. The same child. "You probably don't remember," the woman continued emotionally, "but that money bought the medicine that saved his life." She stepped aside slightly. A healthy little boy smiled shyly beside her. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears instantly. The mother hugged her tightly. And Marcus realized something beautiful in that moment. The greatest acts of kindness are often the ones we think nobody notices. But they matter. They always matter. As the celebration continued under glowing lights, Marcus looked around at the lives transformed by one woman the world once ignored. A homeless woman. A grieving mother. A guardian of truth. A giver. And suddenly Marcus understood the real secret behind Evelyn's bank account. It was never the millions of dollars. The real wealth she carried was compassion so powerful it changed everyone around her. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video, it helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.